The good ride, because pros can ride anything. We can't.
Aviator.
This is the good ride review of the Jones Aviator, along with my trusty Union Atlas and Adidas Tactical ADV. I felt that was a great combo for this board. And of course I had to compare it to the Jones Ultra Mountain Twin. And I rode this most of the day. We had really good conditions, like firm, fast groomers in some places, bordering, getting hard to crunchy in some places where it really tests the edge hold, and then soft, perfect corduroy in other places. But mostly firm and fast. It's a great way to test this board. And now take a look at this flex. You can kind of see here. It's got kind of like a medium stiff flex. And then I found that this Ultra Mountain Twin is stiffer, which kind of surprised me. But it's definitely stiffer when you flex each one. Now, but when you get on snow, I found that the Ultra Mountain Twin was easier to butter than the Aviator. And I think that's just because it has less camber, a little more rocker. So in that nose, it's just easier to rocker up, where this has more camber. Now it has this kind of interesting tech. It's more camber. It's not full camber board, but it's more camber going to a little bit of rocker. But then this side here kind of like starts to like bow out. You can kind of see here maybe how it kind of curves out a little more. It seems to be more subtle than years past. And one thing I really noticed with this model, this 2019, maybe there were some subtle tweaks in the design of this, you know, like curve out kind of thing. So it rockers up and then curves up on the sides. This lifted technology might be tweaked a little bit, because in past I felt like the Aviator and the Ultra Aviator, now like the Project X, kind of washed on the tail a little more when you engaged into a hard carving turn. It like gave you that like weird, like it gave you the feeling like, hey, you're on camber and you're mostly camber and you're ready to go lay out a hard carve, and then it would wash on you like you were trying to make a turn on a rocker board that had the tip and tail lifted. So it was kind of weird. It was nowhere near as bad as like Battalion's triple base technology, but it was a little frustrating, because sometimes it would really take the joy of like the most committed part of the carve out of it, where even with that board, while it's not as dynamic camber wise and not as springy out of each turn like shorter radius turns and stuff like that, I could complete a carve and have more fun with that. Well, today this carved just as well, if not better, than the Ultra Mountain Twin, and it only washed out on me a couple times. So I barely felt that lifted technology, where in the past I felt it a lot. Maybe it's that I'm getting used to it, or maybe there was some subtle tweak to this lifted technology. This is a light, poppy, playful board. It definitely feels lighter than my Ultra Mountain Twin. And you know, they've got some carbon fiber strips in here. But one thing I noticed is that when I picked up speed with this, it felt a little bucky, and you could really feel that chatter underfoot. It felt light. It felt like the edges were kind of dancing on the snow a little bit more. They weren't set in. They could buck out a little easier. And this popped really well for an ollie. It ollied better than this, the Ultra Mountain Twin. But overall, again, it's why I think this is my favorite and a good ride favorite as opposed to the Aviator, is because the Ultra Mountain Twin just seemed to have a more stable, a more damp feel. I could butter it easier. Yes, it didn't pop as well, but it still pops pretty good. And ride switch just a touch better, and it just feels like a more diverse all mountain board and a little more stable and a little more friendly underfoot. This felt just a little too light and a little too ultra poppy and chattery for me compared to this. Now, is this a bad board? No, not at all. And it's highly recommendable, especially if you're looking for something that just like, that's light, that's easy on the foot. Pair it up with a really light binding and you know, see if you can find a lighter boot. It's hard to weigh all the boots and what have you and bindings. And boards vary different from, boards vary, let's say all these Jones Aviator 158s will be different weights for next year. It's just wood's different, you know. Sometimes there's not the same amount of resin, there's not the same amount of the wood doesn't weigh the same weight, so that's why I never weigh boards. But it's definitely almost always on the lighter side compared to the Ultra Mountain Twin or other boards in the Jones line. So yeah, pretty good edge hold, poppy, light, playful. If you want something a little more camber friendly, with a little more camber and a little more pop, this is the call over the Ultra Mountain Twin. But if you want a more stable platform, a less bucky ride, a little more smooth, it had this like intangible smoothness to it compared to this that it's hard to translate, but I just felt so much more comfortable with this underfoot riding around the mountain than I did this. Although I wish we could take a little bit of this pop and a little bit of this dynamic and give it to that, and then that would make this amazing, because it did feel slightly a touch dead compared to this. But still, this is an amazing all mountain board, and same with the you know, the Jones Mountain Twin, not the Ultra Mountain Twin here. And the base is fast on both these boards, really has good glide. Doesn't even look like it's been waxed or anything. Oh yeah, it does. And it just really carried its speed well. I love Jones bases. So check the review on the table to kind of see the rest, you know, like setback on board and stance width kind of stuff and camber profile. And you can compare it to the Ultra Mountain Twin. But you know, all in all, not a bad board. It's probably not something I'd want to own personally because of just how light and bucky it is, but it definitely is a lot better than the last time I tried it. So there you have it, the Aviator 2019.